This is ASMR to the G2. Before we begin the video, let's get down to business. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, I would love it if you did, to join us in our little family here on YouTube. Also, if you'd like more ASMR videos from me, I do have another channel where I upload ASMR videos in Greek. So if you don't care about what I'm actually saying and you just want to hear the whispers, head on over. I will put the link down below. In today's video, we're going to be continuing the book The Wrong Girl. So let's begin from where we left off last time. Is your footman going to restrain me if I try to leave? Of course not. I finished my breakfast, and when I got up, she quickly rose too, toppling her embroidery hoop to the floor. I only wish to look out the window, I said. She sat again, her relief obvious. I stood by the bay window and watched Jack ride down the drive on horseback. He was unaccompanied, which I thought was a little unwise, until I remembered he could set a man on fire if he found himself in trouble. He turned back suddenly, as if he realized I'd been watching, and our gazes locked. He lifted his hand, and I thought he was about to wave. Then he gathered up the reins again and turned away. The horse broke into a gallop, and Jack was soon gone from sight. I forgot to mention that if you hear any background noise, there's a few reasons for this. One, my cat is a little criminal, so he's making a lot of noise. Number two, I'm filming during the day, so there's people coming in and out of my apartment building, and I am close to the front entrance. Okay, let's continue. Now, all I had to do was avoid Tommy, and I would be free. I waited until he had removed my breakfast dishes and had gone for some time before yawning. Sylvia didn't notice, so intent was she on her sewing. I yawned again and stretched. Just one moment. Still tired, she said, looking up. I think I'll retreat to my room for a rest. Of course, I'll wake you for luncheon. I hope you don't mind, but I won't be joining you. Breakfast was quite sufficient to see me through the rest of the day. Sylvia's face fell a little. Oh, it'll just be me then. I also felt sorry for her, but her loneliness was not my concern. I left her and headed towards the staircase. Instead of going up, however, I walked straight past and through an arch that led to a short corridor and a number of closed doors. I bypassed those and headed along another corridor before reaching what appeared to be a door leading outside. I glanced behind me, all silent. No one followed. I pushed the door open and found myself in an empty, graveled courtyard, bordered on three sides by the house. I paused, listened, still nothing. I half walked, half ran across the courtyard, looking left and right and back over my shoulder. The wind pattered at my skirt and made a mockery of my attempt at arranging my own hair. By the time I'd exited the courtyard, my hair had broken free of its pins and whipped across my face. As I glanced this way and that. One second, I'm just gonna quickly check something on my phone. Great. The benefit of finding myself at the rear of the house was that there was a wood nearby. Parks and formal gardens provided a pretty vista from the front and eastern side of Frankenham, but those open spaces weren't of much benefit for an escapee. There was a gravel road and small grassy patch to cross before I entered the the safety of the trees. I checked once more behind me, then lifted my skirts and ran. My heeled boots weren't made for running fast, but I didn't slow until I reached a dense clutch of trees that couldn't be seen from the wood's edge. I hid behind a large oak and leaned against the trunk to catch my breath. Safe. No one had followed. I pushed on, wanting to get far away from Frankenham and whatever the Langleys had in store for me. They might seem pleasant enough on the outside, but there was certainly something odd going on. Something besides Jack's ability to start fires. Perhaps, if I really did have the same affliction as he, I would be more inclined to see if they really could help me control it, but I couldn't let them discover that I didn't, and Vi did. I didn't trust them, and Vi was my one true friend, a sister in every sense of the word except biological. I would protect her with every last breath in my body. To my sickening horror, I realized that meant I couldn't return to Windermere. The Langleys would look for me there. I had to steer them away from Vi and disappear forever. Tears pricked my eyes, but I forced them back as I pushed along a narrow winding path. My mind and heart, however, remained in turmoil. Perhaps that's why I didn't see a Ballard until it was too late. He stepped out from behind a tree and grabbed my arm. I screamed. He clamped a hand over my mouth, dragging me back against his body. He smelled like damp earth and moldy leaves, and he carried a shovel. I struggled, but he was much too strong. I bit his hand. He grunted and let go. I scampered away, but my heel was higher than what I was used to, and I toppled over and fell on my hands and knees in the decaying leaves. Ballard caught me again and shook the shovel in my face. His lips pulled back in a snarl. I turned my head and tried to jerk myself free, but his long fingers locked around my arm. Let me go. He shook his head, but said nothing. I have a right to go where I please. Another shake of his head. Why didn't he speak? Was the man a mute? No wonder the manor was dubbed Freak House. I was beginning to think Sylvia was the only normal one there, although even she had an excessive sunny disposition that didn't seem natural. Ballard pulled me along with him back to the house. I resisted every step of the way, but of course it achieved nothing. It was like a bee flying into a gale, utterly pointless. Bees could sting, though. When we reached the courtyard, I threw the most terrible, ear-splitting tantrum, complete with colorful curses and the most awful names I could think of to call him. It didn't halt Ballard's progress in the least, but it did draw the attention of the servants and Sylvia. 3 of the former peered out of the ground floor service windows as we passed, their eyes as wide as saucers. Sylvia burst out the same door I'd used to escape and ran across the courtyard to us. Her face was a picture of pale horror, her bottom lip quivering. She blinked back tears. What she had to cry about, I had no idea. I ought to be the one in tears. Yet, I had no intention of crying, nor any inclination. The shouting must have got it all out of my system. I quieted when Sylvia grabbed my other arm. She let it go with a gasp. Be calm, Violet, for heaven's sake. I'm finding that rather difficult at the moment, I spat, all things considered. She edged away from me. What happened? Violet, did you? She glanced up at the rooms on the top floor of the eastern wings and a chiffon racked her. I followed her gaze and saw August Langley watching us from the window. Did you try to escape? She whispered. I lifted my chin. Of course. Unfortunately, Ballard here was doing a bit of gardening in the woods. What were you you doing, Ballard? Digging a grave? Sylvia gasped and covered her mouth with her hands. She eyed Ballard's shovel with horror. Oh God, if she was frightened, then perhaps my offhanded remark wasn't so absurd. Where before I'd felt hot from my exercise and anger, now icy cold fingers wrapped around my heart. I couldn't dislodge the notion from my head, but if he was digging a grave at his master's behest, whose was it? Mine. Ballard marched me to the house and up the stairs to Langley's rooms. Sylvia didn't follow. Aren't you coming? I called back to her. She shook her head. I haven't been summoned. I'd been right about her. That sunny disposition was all a facade. She was as afraid of her uncle as I was. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I could do this alone. There was nothing to fear. Indeed, I had every right to be furious, and damnation I would be. One look at the anger in Langley's eyes had my heart in my throat again and my nerves jangling. If he'd been able to stand and approach me, I'd no doubt he would have slapped me. He still might order Ballard to do it. The servant held the shovel like a weapon and stood behind me and the door. Stupid, stupid girl, Langley spat. I thought you were more sensible than that. Then it seems you are quite wrong. Wrong about more things than he knew. Color flushed his cheeks, but his lips turned stark white. Did I give you permission to speak? As if being kept prisoner weren't enough, he wanted to make me as mute as Ballard, too. I don't need your permission, Mr. Langley, I snapped. I have a tongue and will use it. Something inside me rose with my anger and filled me up until I was brimming with it. Something familiar, yet wrong. Something terrible and ill-timed. My limbs became heavy, my mind dulled so that I could no longer form words. My skin felt like 1,000 needles had been injected into it. Langley's eyes widened. Move, Ballard. He willed himself away from me so fast he backed into the occasional table, knocking it over and sending the 2 books that had been opened up upon it to the floor. Ballard retreated to the door to stop me from leaving. It didn't matter. I knew what was about to happen, and I wouldn't be going anywhere. The last I remembered was falling on the floor